What is going on? The French all of a sudden are making some of the most gorgeous cars I've seen in a long time. The Peugeot 308, which was launched earlier this year, one of the most beautiful cars I've seen in a long time. And then this, the new Renault Megane E-Tech, fully electric. It is absolutely stunning. Looks aside, what actually is it? Well, believe it or not, it's actually built on the same platform as the new Nissan Ariya, which is weird because it looks a lot smaller, and actually it is. Renault have been very clever and used that platform and shoved the wheels all the way into each corner and basically made it a little bit smaller. It's available in a few different specs and trims. Equilibria is the entry, then there's Techno, and then the Launch Edition. But let's talk quickly about batteries. All right, so let's get the batteries out of the way, because with all electric cars, range, that's what you really want to know about. So it is available with two different battery options. The smaller entry level, which is about 37,500 euros, that has got a 40 kilowatt hour battery and is good for about 350 kilometer range. Now that's WLTP. Real world, I suspect, is probably closer to 250. Then there's this, which is the 60 kilowatt hour battery. Now that one, if you get it with the same spec, costs about 42,000 euros. Now with that, you'll get a claimed range of 450 kilometers. Now, real world, I suspect, probably closer to 350 kilometers, but that's a pretty good range out of a battery that's only 60 kilowatt hours. And the reason for that is actually down to how efficient it is, which we'll talk about more when we go for a drive. But just a quick look under here, this is where the electric motor is. Now, one other thing to talk about is actually power. So that smaller 40 kilowatt hour battery, that electric motor puts out about 130 horsepower, whereas this one, being the bigger battery, has about 220 horsepower, so a lot quicker. And actually on the road, it is pretty quick, but we'll talk about that when we go for a drive. As the rain just randomly decides to pelt down, we'll check out the boot. I love the way that opens. And when you open it up in here, it's actually a very generously sized boot. 440 litres, which is actually bigger than a Volkswagen Golf and actually even a Volkswagen ID3. It's really pelting down now. I had planned to take out my bicycle to show you the space. A couple things I will note: quite a big kind of drop there, and actually when you fold the seats down, there's a big jump, but they do fold in a 60-40 split. And a bicycle does fit in, but I think we should get inside because it is absolutely soaking out here. On the inside, I don't know about you, but I get quite strong Volvo, Polestar vibes. Things like the seats and the headrests, but also the material used. It's all very kind of vegan. I don't know if that's the exact term, but actually that theme continues through the infotainment system. So it's actually run through a Google infotainment, which is really, really good. And it connects wirelessly to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is great. One of the big things is if you enter a destination and let's say there I click Ennis, it actually adds a charging stop for me, or it tells me that I'll have 7% when I arrive. Those little touches are really, really good. And the system itself, very easy to use. It's only about a 9-inch screen, and I have seen in the UK some cars are getting a 13-inch. I'm not sure, I wasn't able to configure it on Renault's website, but maybe that's my mistake. But where you do get a 12-inch screen or a 13-inch screen is over here for the digital display. And if I'll just turn it on there quickly, it is really good. The quality of the graphics, phenomenal. You can customize it just how you like. It has everything you'll need: your speed, your range, your efficiency. It's all there, and it's all very easy to use. And then on the steering wheel here itself, again, very simple to use. On my left hand side, I've got everything to do with my cruise control, my adaptive cruise control, all that stuff's there. Then on the right hand side, it's all to do with adjusting this screen, and also obviously I can then click this multi-sense button. Now that's about your driving mode. So you have everything from eco, sport, you can set it up, it's personalized, comfort, etc. I tend to just drive it in eco because it makes sense. One thing that was said to me yesterday, and I can't help but notice, that there are 4 stalks. So there's the stalk to put into gear here, then there's the indicators or the wipers, sorry. Then over here I have my audio, which is quite hard to see underneath the steering wheel. That's just for your volume. And then over here on the left I have my indicators. 4 stalks, a little bit excessive. But back to the setup in here, really comfortable position with the armrests on both sides, wireless charging. I also really like how my phone just slots in there, again, really nice. And the simple thing like some shortcutted buttons for your climate control and everything else like that. So as a whole in here, it is really nice, very comfortable, and probably pips the likes of the ID3 at the post, in my opinion. Now that the rain has dispersed, let's talk about charging. Now, ironically, how long do you have? Not because it takes particularly long, but because there's a lot of information to digest here. But the good news is that all Meganes come with a heat pump. Now what that means is that the car is able to prime itself so that it can charge a little bit more efficiently. A good example of that is if you do drive down to Ennis and you have a charge point on the way, the car is able to prepare to basically have the battery at the right temperature to have a really efficient charge then. In terms of charging speeds, well, it's up to 130 kilowatts, which means that you should be able to go from 10 to 80% in about a half an hour if a charger allows. Another number that they use is it can charge up to 50 kilometers in 7 to 10 minutes. It is really good. If you're charging it at home, it's somewhere between 9 and 10 hours, depending on which battery pack you choose. But in terms of charging, it is pretty good for that point of view, especially if you are charging on the move. So as we go off for a drive now in the Megane, this is where it's really important to be good. And the good news is, it is very good. So to begin with, let's mention the fact that it's got 26 different driving aids. Now these are everything from blind spot monitoring to reversing cameras, adaptive cruise control and lane assist. And actually the lane assist on this is brilliant. I drove at about 80 kilometers earlier today on the motorway and it was brilliant. It basically did the driving for me. Now the power, that 220 brake horsepower that we have in this version, it goes to the front wheels, which is quite different in electric cars. The ID cars and a lot of other brands are actually rear wheel drive. And it, I'm gonna say, somewhat handles a little bit like a hot hatch. When you put your foot down, it's actually quite quick, and even in these wet conditions, the front wheels actually spin up ever so slightly. But it is quite an enjoyable car to drive. In fact, Renault have put a lot of effort into making it as light as possible, and that's done through lighter materials, lighter batteries, aluminium doors. It's really been pushed to be as light as possible. And so depending on which battery version you go for, it weighs about 15 or 1600 kilos, which is very light for an electric car. When you think the likes of something like a Hyundai Ioniq 5, I think weighs over 2 ton, which is a substantial difference. So another thing when you're driving any electric car is regenerative braking. If you don't know what that is, you can hit our link up there, which is everything you need to know about electric cars. But regenerative braking is when you take your foot off the accelerator. It uses the power of slowing down to recoup power and actually create and extend your range. Now this is adjusted and it can be turned off, but it's adjusted through these flappy paddles here. And this isn't quite one pedal driving, so it won't bring you to a complete halt, but it does slow you down quite a lot. And actually, once you get used to driving a car like that, you struggle to get back. I've actually had a few times where I've driven an electric car for a week and then gotten in an automatic diesel and gone up to the lights and nearly gone straight through them because I'm expecting it to stop for itself. Another great thing is that all specs come with things like heated seats, heated steering wheels. As you know, we just got rained on big time, and being able to just put your hands on a heated steering wheel is absolutely gorgeous. As a whole, it is lovely to drive, and I think with any car, particularly electric cars, if you've never driven one before, I can't advise just going down to a dealership and taking one for a test drive, because it really gives you a sense of what it is like to drive. So if you'd like to search for Renault dealerships in Ireland, then hit the link up there. We've got over 1,000 trusted dealerships nationwide, and they'll be sure to kind of help you not only going for a test drive but also speccing it. As we go over that speed bump, it's pretty smooth too. So there you have it. That is the new Renault Megane E-Tech electric. And I have to say, I think they've knocked the ball out of the park with this. It's really, really good, and it would make me think, despite being quite a big enthusiast for Volkswagen cars, I'd probably maybe consider one of these over an ID3. I just think it's a little bit more special, and actually from this side here, I get major concept car vibes. It's got the big 20-inch alloys, which obviously is an extra, but even here, the way the doors open, it's just a lovely car. Now, hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If you've got any questions, then comment below. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.